What
Sign
would
the
you
divorce
do if your
papers, Emma.
husband's family
I'm
treated
taking
you like
everything.
garbage for 9 months, only to discover you secretly owned $10 billion the entire time?
I believe this one is
I'm
yours.
about to tell you
Well,
the true
thank you.
story of Emma Harrison.
To us.
A woman who married the man of her dreams only to become a prisoner in his family's mansion. They gave her a $500 weekly allowance. They made her do laundry like a servant. They served her alcohol
little
while she
something
was
special
pregnant
just for you,
to
Emma.
build a
Go on,
custody
drink
case
up.
against her.
Thank you,
But
Catherine.
here's what they
You're
didn't
too
know.
kind.
Emma's mother built one of the largest manufacturing
Ladies and gentlemen,
empires on the East
I present
Coast.
to you the signed
And when she
Harrison
died, she
contract.
left every single
It seems
penny
my
to her
associate
daughter.
here was unaware
That's right.
we finalized the deal.
While her mother-in-law was announcing Emma's tight budget to society wives, Emma was secretly worth $8.7 billion, and she was gathering evidence. For 9 months, Emma played weak while recording every insult, every betrayal, every piece of abuse. And then, at a gala in front of 500 witnesses, she burned their entire world to the ground. This is the story of the quietest revenge you'll ever hear. And trust me, you want to hear every single second of how this ends. If you've ever felt underestimated, invisible, or like people saw you as less than you are, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment telling me if Emma was right to destroy them or if she went too far. And subscribe, because stories like this, where the underdog wins, are exactly what I bring to this channel. Now let me take you back to the beginning, to the moment Emma Harrison walked into that ballroom and changed everything. Sign these papers. Now, Catherine Mitchell's voice cut through the Boston Harbor Grand Hotel ballroom like a blade through silk. 500 guests went silent in an instant. Champagne glasses froze halfway to perfectly painted lips. The string quartet playing Vivaldi trailed off mid-note, the violinist's bow hovering uncertainly in the air. Every conversation died. Every head turned. Emma Harrison felt the weight of 500 pairs of eyes land on her like a physical force. She sat alone at the head table, 7 months pregnant, her hands folded protectively over her swollen belly. Her husband Brandon sat 3 feet away, but it might as well have been 3 miles. His arm draped casually around another woman's shoulders. Ashley Rothschild. Beautiful. Confident. Everything Emma had been systematically taught she wasn't. You're a leech who's been bleeding this family dry for 9 months. Catherine stood over Emma, impeccable in custom Chanel, her perfectly styled hair not moving despite the force of her words. My son was too weak to throw you out himself, so I'm doing it for him. Catherine slammed divorce papers onto the white linen tablecloth. The sound echoed in the silent ballroom. The papers landed inches from Emma's pregnant belly, close enough to be a threat. Emma's hands trembled. The baby kicked hard inside her, as if sensing the danger, as if saying, "Fight, Mama, fight." Emma pressed her palm against the kick, tried to calm her racing heart. You walked into this family with nothing, Catherine continued, her voice rising, playing to the audience of Boston's elite. You'll leave with nothing. Sign them, now. Brandon Mitchell, Emma's husband of 9 months, wouldn't meet her eyes. He sat in his perfectly tailored tuxedo, sandy brown hair styled just right, and looked at a spot somewhere over Emma's left shoulder. Anywhere but at his pregnant wife being humiliated in front of 500 people. Ashley Rothschild smiled. Just a small curve of perfectly painted red lips. But Emma saw it, saw the triumph, saw 9 months of careful planning about to pay off for everyone except Emma. The crystal chandeliers above cast dancing light across faces Emma had learned to read over the past year. Judge Robert Morrison looked genuinely uncomfortable, his weathered face creased with concern. The society wives whispered behind their hands, eyes gleaming with schadenfreude. Business partners of Mitchell Properties leaned forward, scenting blood in the water like sharks. Emma stood slowly. Her movements were careful, deliberate, one hand never leaving her belly. The navy maternity gown she'd bought in secret, without Catherine's knowledge or approval, flowed around her like armor. For 9 months she'd let them think she was broken. For 9 months she'd played the victim while methodically building her case. For 9 months she'd endured daily humiliation, financial control, isolation, and gaslighting, all while waiting for this exact moment. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. You really don't know, do you? Catherine's perfectly shaped eyebrow arched. Know what? That you're a gold digger who trapped my son with a pregnancy? Yes, dear. Everyone knows. Everyone in this room knows exactly what you are. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Emma heard them, knew what they were saying, Poor Brandon. That girl, the pregnancy was so convenient. No, Emma said quietly, but her voice carried in the silent ballroom for him. You don't know who I am, what I own, what I control. She looked directly at Catherine Mitchell, the woman who'd spent nearly a year systematically destroying her. The woman who'd made Emma do laundry like a servant, who'd given her a $500 weekly allowance and announced Emma's tight budget in public, who'd served Emma alcohol while pregnant just to build a custody case. The woman who thought Emma Harrison was nothing more than a poor girl who'd gotten lucky and trapped a rich man. The $10 billion merger you're celebrating tonight? Emma paused, letting the words hang in the expensive air, heavy with champagne and designer perfume. I own the company, every single share. Catherine's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. The color began draining from her face. Harrison Manufacturing Group, Emma continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. My mother built it from nothing. Spent 30 years turning a small factory into one of the largest manufacturing conglomerates on the East Coast. When she died 2 years ago, she left the entire company to me. Every share, every subsidiary, every contract, every supplier, everything. She took a step forward. Catherine actually stepped back. And you, Emma said, looking at Catherine with something close to pity, just destroyed 9 months of negotiations with the woman who holds your entire financial future in her hands. The room exploded into whispers. Heads turned to each other. Phones came out. Reporters in the back started typing frantically. Catherine's face had gone from red to white to gray. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. But before we get to how this ends, Emma said, turning to address the entire room, let me show you how it began. Let me tell you what the Mitchell family has done to me for the past 9 months. And more importantly, let me tell you why they did it. She pulled out her phone, held it up. Because this entire conversation, from the moment Catherine screamed at me to sign divorce papers, has been live streaming on my Instagram account. 52,000 people are watching right now, including reporters from the Boston Globe, the Wall Street Journal, and Forbes. Catherine made a small sound, almost like a wounded animal. By tomorrow morning, Emma said, her voice clear and strong, the story of how Catherine Mitchell abused her pregnant daughter-in-law will be trending nationwide. And then I'm going to show everyone exactly what she did and why. Emma took a breath, felt the baby kick again, stronger this time, as if saying, yes, Mama. Tell them everything. But first, Emma said, let me take you back to the beginning, to the day I met Brandon Mitchell at a charity auction and made the biggest mistake of my life. Stay with me, because what happens at the end will show you exactly why they never saw me coming. The room was completely silent now. Even the staff had stopped moving. Everyone watching, everyone waiting. Emma Harrison was about to burn down an empire, and she was going to enjoy every second of it. 8 months earlier, Emma Harrison sat alone at a charity auction for Boston Children's Hospital, wearing a simple black dress from Nordstrom and her mother's wedding ring. The ballroom of the Four Seasons was filled with Boston's wealthiest families, all dressed in designer gowns and custom tuxedos, all pretending to care about sick children while really caring about being seen caring about sick children. Emma had purchased table 12, all 12 seats, $6,000 total, but she was the only one occupying them. She'd learned early, after her mother Victoria Harrison died and left her a manufacturing empire, that when you're secretly worth billions, dressing down and sitting alone is a kind of invisibility cloak. People don't look twice at the woman in the Nordstrom dress sitting by herself. Is this seat taken? Emma looked up to find a man in his early 30s standing beside her chair, handsome in that clean-cut Harvard Business School way. Sandy brown hair styled perfectly. Warm hazel eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. Bow tie slightly loosened, like he was rebelling against formality in the smallest way possible. All 12 are paid for, Emma said, but I'm the only one here. Help yourself. Brandon Mitchell sat down, loosening his bow tie another inch. You bought an entire table just for yourself? The hospital needed funding. Emma shrugged, watching his face carefully for any sign of recognition. I had some savings. That's incredibly generous. He extended his hand, and Emma noticed his nails were perfectly manicured. I'm Brandon Mitchell. Emma Harrison, she said, shaking his hand. His grip was firm, but not aggressive. She watched his face, waited for the recognition, waited for him to connect Emma Harrison to Victoria Harrison, to Harrison Manufacturing Group, to the $8.7 billion empire her mother had built from nothing. But there was nothing, just polite interest. Harrison, Brandon said thoughtfully. Why does that name sound familiar? It's pretty common, Emma replied casually. And it was true enough. There were thousands of Harrisons in America, hundreds in Massachusetts alone. No reason for him to connect her to Harrison Manufacturing Group, a company that operated mostly in B2B manufacturing, not consumer goods. Unless you followed industrial supply chains closely, you probably hadn't heard of them. They talked through the auction. Brandon was funny, self-deprecating in a way that seemed genuine. He worked in his family's real estate business, Mitchell Properties, but wanted to do more than just manage family money. He talked about building something meaningful, something that mattered. Can I be honest? Brandon said as dessert was served. Some complicated tower of chocolate and raspberries that probably cost more than Emma's dress. I usually hate these events. Everyone's so fake. They're performing wealth, performing charity, performing caring, but you're different. You're real, so are you, Emma said. And she meant it, at least right now. What do you mean, at least right now? People are different when they think no one important is watching, Emma explained. They perform the version of themselves they think gets them what they want. Brandon studied her face, really looked at her. You think I'm performing? Everyone is, Emma said with a smile, including me. What are you performing? Girl next door, Emma said honestly. Simple, uncomplicated, not worth a second glance. Brandon leaned forward, his attention focusing entirely on her. I'm giving you a second glance, and a third. What do you really do, Emma Harrison? I'm a supply chain consultant, Emma said, which was technically true. She did consult on supply chains. She just happened to own the largest manufacturing supply chain on the East Coast. But Brandon didn't need to know that. Not yet. Maybe not ever. They exchanged numbers. He texted her the next day. Coffee? Over the next 4 weeks, they dated. Coffee shops instead of fancy restaurants. Walks through Boston Common instead of gallery openings. Brandon talked about wanting to be more than his mother's son, about building something meaningful instead of just managing family money and attending charity galas. Emma listened and said little about her own background. She'd learned from her mother that real power operated in the shadows. Victoria Harrison had built a billion-dollar empire while most people thought she was just another widow running her dead husband's factory. Emma intended to do the same. Week 5 brought the first red flag, though Emma ignored it like people in new relationships always ignore red flags. They were having dinner at Brandon's apartment, a beautiful space in Back Bay with exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows. Brandon cooked, which impressed Emma. Pasta carbonara, simple but perfectly executed. They were halfway through the meal when his phone rang. Mom flashed on the screen. Brandon answered immediately. Didn't say excuse me. Didn't apologize. Just answered and talked for 20 minutes while their food got cold. While Emma sat alone at the table watching him pace and nod and say yes, Mom. Of course, Mom. I understand, Mom. Whatever you think is best, Mom. When he finally hung up, Emma asked carefully, does she always call during dinner? She's alone, Brandon said, his voice carrying a defensive edge Emma hadn't heard before. Dad died when I was 12. She needs me. But what about what you need? She sacrificed everything to keep the business running. After Dad died, Brandon said, and now his voice had an edge that made Emma's stomach tighten. She could have sold it, could have taken the easy way out, but she kept it going for me. I owe her. It was the first crack in the facade. But Emma had already started falling for him, for the version of him that existed when Catherine wasn't on the phone. So she ignored it, told herself it was just one phone call. That all families had their dynamics. Month 3, Brandon proposed. They were at a romantic restaurant on Newberry Street, candles and soft lighting, and a violinist playing in the corner. Brandon got down on one knee right there between the tables. Other diners applauded. The violinist played louder. I know it's fast, Brandon said. Ring box open, a beautiful emerald-cut diamond catching the candlelight. But when you know, you know. Marry me, Emma Harrison. Make me the happiest man in Boston. Emma hesitated, just for a flash, barely a second. but long enough for doubt to whisper in her ear. This is too fast. You barely know him. What about the phone calls? What about his mother? But Brandon was looking at her with such hope, such love, and Emma wanted to believe. Wanted to believe that love could be simple, that she could be normal, Emma marrying normal Brandon, and they'd build a normal life together. Yes, she said. That night, Emma called Maria Santos, her best friend since college. Maria taught high school English in Dorchester and had exactly zero patience for nonsense. 3 months? Maria said over the phone, her voice sharp. Emma, you barely know him. I know enough, Emma said. He's kind. He's different from the trust fund boys who just want a trophy wife. He wants to build something real. But his mother, Maria started. Won't be an issue, Emma interrupted. We'll have boundaries. Maria was quiet for a long moment. Honey, men with controlling mothers don't just have boundaries. Not without years of therapy. And even then, it's hard. I can handle Catherine Mitchell, Emma said with confidence she didn't quite feel. Can you? Maria's voice was careful. Or do you just think you can because you're secretly richer than her? That's not why I'm marrying him, isn't it? Be honest with yourself, Em. Part of you wants to prove that girl next door Emma can hold her own with old money. That you're good enough for their world even without them knowing who you really are. But this isn't a game. This is your life. Beat of silence. I love him, Maria, Emma said quietly. I hope that's enough, Maria replied. Spoiler, it wouldn't be. The engagement party happened 2 weeks before the wedding at the Mitchell estate, a massive property in Brookline that looked like it had been transplanted from an English countryside. Manicured lawns, rose gardens, a mansion that belonged in a movie about old money. 150 guests filled the gardens. Emma knew exactly 3 people, Maria and 2 former colleagues from the consulting firm where she'd worked briefly after her mother died, before taking over Harrison Manufacturing. Catherine introduced Emma to clusters of guests with the same condescending warmth every time. This is Emma. Emma, Catherine would say, her smile never reaching her eyes. Brandon's fiancée. She's from a simpler background. But love is love, isn't it? Each introduction carried the same subtle message. This girl doesn't belong here. Each smile from Catherine's friends held the same pity. What is Brandon thinking? Then Ashley Rothschild arrived. Emma spotted her immediately. Some people just have that presence, that quality that makes heads turn. Ashley was stunning in a way that looked effortless, but Emma knew cost thousands of dollars to maintain. Blonde hair that caught the evening light perfectly. Violet designer dress that fit like it had been made specifically for her body. Confidence that radiated from someone who'd never had to prove they belonged anywhere. Brandon! Ashley's voice carried across the garden, clear and bright. She swept toward him, and Emma watched the way people parted to let her through. She kissed Brandon's cheek, lingered just a moment too long, her hand on his shoulder. I didn't know you were seeing anyone seriously, Ashley said, her eyes finally landing on Emma. Yeah, Brandon said, uncomfortable in a way that made Emma's stomach drop. Emma, this is Ashley. Ashley Rothschild, family friend. Family friend felt like an understatement from the way they looked at each other. How did you 2 meet? Ashley asked Emma, her smile sharp. Charity auction, Emma said. Oh, which one? Ashley's tone was light, but the question felt like a test. I'm on the board of Children's Hospital, Women's Fund, and the Arts Council. I don't remember seeing you. Children's Hospital, Emma said. How generous of you to donate. Ashley's voice dripped with condescension so subtle that anyone listening casually might miss it. Those tickets are expensive for someone just starting out. I bought a table, Emma said quietly. Beat of silence. Ashley's smile froze. A table? 12 seats, Emma said, meeting Ashley's eyes. Thought I'd support the cause. $6,000 hung in the air between them. Ashley's smile turned brittle. Catherine quickly changed the subject, but not before Emma saw Brandon and Ashley exchange a look. Private, intimate, history. Later that evening, Emma found them talking in the garden, half hidden by rose bushes. Too close. Ashley's hand on Brandon's arm. He didn't move away. Emma approached deliberately, making noise so they'd hear her coming. They stepped apart immediately, guilty looks flashing across both their faces. Hey, Brandon said too quickly. We were just catching up. Ashley and I grew up together. Our families have been close for generations. How close? Emma asked, looking between them. Oh, everyone thought we'd end up together eventually, Ashley said, her smile sharpening. Didn't they, Brandon? Everyone expected it. Still does, honestly. That was years ago, Ash, Brandon said, but his voice carried no conviction. Was it? Ashley started. Then Catherine appeared like she'd been waiting in the wings. Ashley, darling, your mother's looking for you. Ashley left with one more lingering look at Brandon. Catherine turned to Emma. Ashley's father runs Rothschild Investments, Catherine said conversationally. Very important connection for the business. Major investor in several of our properties. I hope you'll be understanding about Brandon needing to maintain that relationship. The message was clear as crystal. Ashley wasn't going anywhere. That night, alone in her apartment, Emma opened her laptop and researched Ashley Rothschild, found society page photos going back years. Ashley and Brandon at various galas, benefits, weddings, always together, always looking at each other with that kind of familiarity that spoke of history. Emma should have called off the wedding, should have listened to the warning bells clanging in her head, but love made fools of everyone, and Emma Harrison was no exception. 1 week before the wedding, Catherine's lawyer presented the prenuptial agreement. They met in an austere office downtown, all dark wood and leather chairs that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Catherine sat on one side of the conference table being perfectly composed in a cream Armani suit. Brandon sat beside his mother. Emma sat alone on the other side. The lawyer, a man in his 60s with silver hair and cold eyes, slid the document across the polished wood. This is standard for the Mitchell family, he said in a voice that suggested he'd given this speech 100 times. It simply protects family assets accumulated before marriage. Perfectly routine. Emma read it carefully. She'd learned from her mother to never sign anything without reading every word. The prenup was comprehensive, 27 pages of legalese. But the key clause was on page 3, buried in dense language. Emma Harrison represents and warrants that she brings no assets, properties, business interests, or income-generating investments to this marriage. The parties acknowledge that all marital assets originate from the Mitchell family. They had no idea. Victoria Harrison's estate had transferred to Emma the day after Brandon proposed, per the instructions in Victoria's will. A will that specified Emma would inherit everything when she turned 29 or got engaged, whichever came first. Victoria had been protecting her daughter, ensuring Emma would have security before taking any major life step. $8.7 billion in assets. Harrison Manufacturing Group, worth $7.2 billion. Real estate holdings worth another $1 billion. Investment portfolio worth $500 million. Cash and other liquid assets worth another $1 billion. And Catherine Mitchell thought Emma had nothing. This says I have zero assets, Emma said, looking up from the document. Well, dear, you don't, Catherine said, her voice gentle, almost pitying. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Brandon loves you for who you are, not what you have. That's what real love is. Mom, Brandon started, looking uncomfortable. It's just a formality, Emma, Catherine continued, pushing a Mont Blanc pen across the table. Standard protection for family wealth. I'm sure you understand. Your own family would have done the same if they'd had assets to protect. The casual cruelty landed exactly as Catherine intended. Your family was too poor to understand this world. Emma looked at Brandon. Is this what you want? It just protects what my family's built over 3 generations, Brandon said, still not meeting her eyes. You understand, right? It doesn't mean I don't trust you. It's just smart business. Beat of silence. Mom understood perfectly. He would always choose his mother, would always choose family legacy over her, would always be Catherine's son before he was Emma's partner. Emma signed. The pen moved smoothly across the page. Emma Harrison in her neat handwriting. Inside, she was thinking, I'm signing a document that claims I have nothing, but legally I own 80% of the manufacturing supply chain you'll need to save your failing business. I own the companies you've been trying to partner with for 3 years. I own your future. The joke was on them. They just didn't know it yet. Wedding planning became Catherine's domain completely. I'll handle everything, Catherine said when Emma tried to be involved. I know the vendors. I know what works for a Mitchell family wedding. You just focus on looking pretty, dear. Emma tried to have input, suggested a smaller guest list, a more intimate venue, flowers that meant something to her and Brandon. Every suggestion was ignored, every preference overruled. The wedding became a Mitchell production, and Emma was just a prop. The day before the wedding, Emma stood in her small apartment, looking at two suitcases packed with her belongings. Everything she owned that mattered fit in two bags. Her mother's jewelry, photo albums, her laptop with 10 years of memories, a few books, clothes. Tomorrow she'd marry Brandon Mitchell. Tomorrow she'd move into the Mitchell estate. Tomorrow her life as Emma Harrison would end, and her life as Emma Mitchell would begin. Maria came over that evening, brought wine even though Emma couldn't drink because she'd started prenatal vitamins just in case, brought Chinese takeout, brought the kind of friendship that doesn't require words. "It's not too late," Maria said as they sat on Emma's couch, boxes stacked around them. "You can still change your mind." "I love him," Emma said. "Do you?" Maria's voice was gentle. "Or do you love who you thought he was? What's the difference?" "Everything," Maria said. "Everything, Emma didn't answer, because she didn't have an answer. Because maybe Maria was right. Maybe Emma had fallen in love with a version of Brandon that only existed away from his mother. Maybe the real Brandon was the one who let Catherine control everything. Maybe Emma had been fooling herself from the start. But it was too late now. The invitations were sent. The flowers were ordered. The dress hung in her closet. A beautiful Vera Wang that Catherine had chosen and Emma had agreed to, because picking battles meant choosing which ones mattered. The wedding happened on a perfect October day. Blue sky, comfortable temperature, leaves just starting to turn. 200 guests filled the Episcopal Church in Brookline. Emma walked down the aisle alone because her father had died when she was young and she had no other male relatives. She'd wanted Maria to walk with her, but Catherine had insisted that wasn't proper for a Mitchell wedding. So Emma walked alone down the endless aisle toward Brandon, who stood at the altar in his perfectly tailored tuxedo, looking handsome and nervous and like he might actually love her. The ceremony was beautiful, traditional. The minister talked about love and commitment and partnership. Brandon said his vows, voice steady. Emma said hers, voice breaking slightly on the part about for better or worse, because she was starting to suspect she'd be seeing more worse than better. They kissed. The church erupted in applause. They were married. At the reception, Catherine gave a toast. "To my son Brandon," Catherine said, champagne glass raised, "who has always made me proud. And to Emma, who I'm sure will learn what it means to be a Mitchell." The room laughed politely. Emma smiled like it was a joke, like Catherine hadn't just told 200 people that Emma wasn't good enough yet, but might learn to be. That night, Emma and Brandon stayed in the presidential suite at the Four Seasons. Brandon made love to her, gentle and attentive, and fell asleep immediately after. Emma lay awake, listening to her new husband breathe, wondering what she'd done. The next morning, they drove to the Mitchell estate. Brandon carried one of Emma's suitcases. A butler carried the other. Emma followed them inside. "Is this everything?" Catherine asked, appearing in the grand foyer, looking at Emma's two small bags with poorly disguised disdain. "I travel light," Emma said. "How quaint." Catherine's smile was sharp. "Well, I've prepared the East Wing guest room for you." "Guest room?" Emma's stomach dropped. "I thought Brandon and I would share the master suite." "Brandon's quarters are in the West Wing," Catherine said, waving her hand dismissively. "The master suite, but there's not enough closet space for two people's wardrobes. This arrangement will be more comfortable for everyone." "Mom, we talked about this," Brandon started, but his voice carried no conviction. "And I explained," Catherine spoke over him, "that married couples and families like ours often maintain separate spaces. Your father and I did. It's perfectly normal. It preserves privacy and independence." Emma looked at Brandon, waited for him to argue, to insist, to claim his wife and his marriage and his royal's right to sleep beside the woman he just married. "Let's just try it for now," Brandon said, not meeting Emma's eyes, "until we figure things out." Emma's heart sank. Catherine had won before the marriage even started. The East Wing guest room was beautiful in the way expensive things are beautiful without being warm. Queen bed with a firm mattress and a million thread count sheets. Antique dresser that had probably belonged to some ancestor. Window overlooking the garden. Everything perfectly decorated, everything impersonal. Emma unpacked her two suitcases alone. hung her limited wardrobe in the massive closet that could have held 10 times her belongings, put her mother's photo on the nightstand, sat on the bed and cried for 20 minutes. Then she dried her tears, opened her laptop, logged into her secure accounts, looked at the $8.7 billion that Catherine Mitchell didn't know existed. This will get better, Emma told herself. Brandon just needs time to adjust, to set boundaries, to remember he chose me. But deep down, Emma already knew it wouldn't get better. It was going to get much, much worse. Week 6 of marriage, Emma missed her period. She took the test at 3 in the morning when the estate was finally quiet. Snuck to the guest bathroom down the hall because she was paranoid about the trash in her room being inspected. Sat on the cold tile floor waiting for the results. 2 pink lines appeared immediately. Then she took 2 more tests, both positive. Pregnant. This wasn't the plan. They'd agreed to wait at least a year, build their relationship, create a foundation strong enough to support a child. But biology didn't care about plans. Emma sat on the bathroom floor, one hand on her still flat stomach, and tried to figure out how to feel. Scared. Definitely scared. Trapped. A little bit trapped, but also surprisingly hopeful. Maybe a baby would change things. Maybe Brandon would step up. Maybe Catherine would soften. Maybe. She told Brandon that evening after dinner, in his study, just the 2 of them before Catherine could insert herself into the moment. "Are you sure?" Brandon asked, his face going through approximately 17 emotions in 3 seconds. 3 tests, Emma said, showing him the photos on her phone. "I'm sure. I know we said we'd wait, but..." His face transformed. The worry evaporated, replaced by pure joy. He pulled Emma into his arms, held her close, whispered into her hair. "This is amazing. We're going to be parents, Em. A baby. Our baby." For that moment, Emma believed everything would be okay. Brandon remembered he loved her. They were starting a family. Catherine couldn't control everything. They'd be a unit now, a family. Then Brandon told his mother at dinner the next night. Catherine's fork paused halfway to her mouth. The temperature in the dining room, which was always chilly, dropped another 10 degrees. "How convenient," Catherine said, her voice like ice wrapped in silk. "Excuse me?" Emma's voice came out smaller than she intended. Getting pregnant so quickly, Catherine set down her fork with careful precision. Some might say suspiciously quickly. "You've been married, what, 6 weeks?" "Mom," Brandon started, but Catherine spoke right over him. "I'm just saying what others will think," Catherine continued, looking at Brandon, not Emma. "That she trapped you, that the pregnancy is why you rushed into marriage so quickly." "People will talk. That's not what happened," Emma said. "We got married because we loved each other. The pregnancy is a surprise for both of us." Catherine finally turned her gaze to Emma. Her eyes were cold. "Of course, dear. I'm sure that's true. I'm just preparing you for what others might say. Society can be cruel to young women who seem to be in a hurry." Catherine turned back to Brandon, ignoring Emma completely now. "Are you certain it's yours?" The question hung in the air like poison gas. Brandon should have been outraged, should have thrown his mother out of the room, should have defended his wife without hesitation. Instead, he paused, just for a second, just a heartbeat, but Emma heard it loud as thunder. Heard the doubt, heard the question forming in his mind. "Of course it's mine, Mom," Brandon finally said. "Don't be ridiculous." But the damage was done. The doubt was planted. Emma saw it in the way Brandon looked at her differently after that. Saw it in the way he pulled back slightly when she tried to hold his hand. Saw it in the new distance in his eyes. "I need air," Emma said, standing abruptly from the table. She walked quickly from the dining room, through the grand hallway, up the stairs to her lonely guest room. Locked the door, sat on the bed. Called Maria. She asked if the baby's Brandon's, Emma said through tears. And he paused, Maria. He actually paused before defending me. "Leave," Maria said immediately. "Pack your stuff and leave tonight. Come stay with me. I'm pregnant. Married. I made a commitment." "You're trapped." Maria's voice was fierce. "There's a difference between commitment and captivity, Em." "I have to make this work," Emma said, pressing her hand to her stomach. "For the baby." "Emma, women who stay for the baby end up teaching their kids that abuse is normal. Is that what you want for your child? To grow up thinking this is what love looks like?" Silence stretched between them. "Give me 6 months," Emma finally said. "If it doesn't improve, I'll leave, I promise." But deep down, Emma already knew it wouldn't improve. Already knew she was lying to herself and to Maria. Already knew she was making a choice she'd regret. The universe was about to prove her right. Week 8 of marriage brought Emma's first true public humiliation. Catherine hosted a charity luncheon at the estate. 30 society women, all perfectly dressed in designer daywear, all part of Boston's elite social circle. Emma was told she would attend. Not invited, told. "You'll be there at 11, Catherine said that morning. "Wear something appropriate, not black, and for God's sake, do something with your hair." Emma stood in front of her closet, looking at her limited wardrobe, and realized she had nothing appropriate by Catherine's standards. The dresses she owned were either too casual or too professional. Nothing hit the sweet spot of society luncheon. She ended up in a simple blue dress from J. Crew, her hair in a low bun, minimal makeup. When she came downstairs, Catherine looked her up and down with barely concealed disappointment. "That will have to do," Catherine said. The luncheon was held in the estate's sunroom, all floor-to-ceiling windows and white furniture, and elaborate floral arrangements that probably cost more than Emma made in a month at her old consulting job. The women arrived in Mercedes and BMWs and the occasional Tesla, all air kisses and Hermes handbags. Emma tried to blend in, helped serve drinks, made small talk when approached. But she felt the eyes on her, felt the judgment, the whispers. Then Catherine made an announcement. "Ladies, if I could have your attention," Catherine said, her voice cutting through the conversations. She stood near the windows, backlit like she was performing on stage. "I have wonderful news to share." "Emma's pregnant!" Polite applause. "Congratulations," murmured around the room. "We're absolutely thrilled, of course," Catherine continued, her smile not reaching her eyes. It was unexpected. "But modern couples don't always wait anymore, do they?" The implication landed like a bomb. Unexpected. Modern couples. The subtext was screaming, she got pregnant to trap him. One woman Emma didn't know approached her with false sweetness. "How far along are you, dear?" 6 weeks, Emma said. "And you've been married how long?" 6 weeks, Emma repeated, her stomach sinking. The math was immediate and obvious. Silent judgment rippled through the room like a wave. Emma saw it in their eyes. "Gold digger, trapped him, poor Brandon." "Emma's from a different background," Catherine said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "More spontaneous. But we're adjusting as a family, teaching her how things are done in families like ours." After lunch, Emma cornered Catherine in the kitchen. "Why did you tell everyone I got pregnant immediately after marriage?" "I just shared happy news." Catherine's eyes were innocent. "Why, are you embarrassed? You made it sound like I trapped Brandon," Emma said, keeping her voice low because staff were nearby. "Did I?" Catherine tilted her head. "Or are you projecting your own guilt?" It was textbook gaslighting, making Emma question her own perception of reality, making her feel crazy for seeing what was right in front of her face. "I'm not feeling guilty about anything," Emma said firmly, "but you deliberately phrased it to make people think I got pregnant to trap your son. If that's how you interpreted it, perhaps you should examine why," Catherine said, then walked away, leaving Emma standing alone in the kitchen. That night, Emma made a decision. She called David Monroe, her mother's former COO, the man Victoria Harrison had trusted to run the company while grooming Emma to eventually take over, the man who'd been waiting patiently for Emma to need him. "David," Emma said when he answered on the second ring, "I need you to prepare something for me. The nuclear option. But not yet. I need them to feel completely safe first." "How long are we waiting?" David's voice was carefully neutral. "As long as it takes," Emma said. "Until they're so confident they've won that they stop watching me. Until they're convinced I'm completely broken." "What exactly do you need me to prepare?" "A merger proposal," Emma said. "Make it look like Harrison Manufacturing is interested in partnering with Mitchell Properties. Start preliminary conversations with their board. Nothing concrete yet, just feelers. Make them excited. Make them think salvation is coming." "Your mother would be proud," David said. "She always said patient revenge is the deadliest kind." "Then let's make Mom proud," Emma said. Over the following weeks, Emma began systematically documenting everything. She installed a recording app on her phone that ran continuously whenever she was in common areas of the house. She photographed credit card statements, saved text messages, screenshot emails. Every insult from Catherine, every dismissal from Brandon, every piece of evidence that would prove what they were doing to her. Month 3 brought the financial control that would define everything that followed. Emma tried to use their joint credit card at a maternity boutique. She'd waited until she was 12 weeks pregnant until it felt safe to start preparing. She picked out simple items, maternity jeans, a few comfortable shirts, nothing expensive. The card declined. "I'm sorry," the cashier said, looking uncomfortable. "Do you have another form of payment?" Emma felt her face flush with embarrassment. "Let me call my husband." She stepped outside and called Brandon. No answer. She called again. Voicemail. She tried Catherine. "Oh dear," Catherine answered on the first ring, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Did the card not work? Brandon must have forgotten to tell you. We've restructured the finances for security." "What does that mean?" Emma's voice was tight. "It means you'll have an allowance," Catherine said brightly. Like this was great news. $500 a week. More than enough for someone with your modest needs. "An allowance?" Emma repeated, unable to believe what she was hearing. "I'm 29 years old and pregnant. I'm not a child." "Of course not, dear." Catherine's voice was patient, like she was explaining something simple to someone slow. "But with the baby coming, we thought you would appreciate not having to worry about finances. Brandon will handle everything. It's one less stress for you." "Where is Brandon? Why isn't he telling me this himself?" "He's in meetings all day," Catherine said. "The Taiwan deal, you know. Very important. I told him I'd explain everything to you. He thought you'd appreciate me handling it." Woman to woman. Emma realized with sick certainty that Brandon knew about this. He'd approved it. He was letting his mother turn Emma into a financial dependent. She hung up without saying goodbye, stood outside the maternity boutique feeling like the ground was shifting beneath her feet. She'd gone from billionaire heiress to woman on an allowance in 12 weeks of marriage. That night, she confronted Brandon in his study. "You gave me an allowance? Like I'm a teenager?" "Mom thought it would help," Brandon said, immediately defensive. "You know, reduce stress about money. You don't have to worry about bills or budgets. We'll handle everything." "I'm not stressed about money," Emma said carefully. "Well, you should be," Brandon's voice carried irritation. "Do you know how much my family spends maintaining this lifestyle? The estate alone costs $50,000 a month. The staff salaries, the maintenance, the property taxes. It's not a game, Emma." "I could contribute," Emma said, testing the waters. Brandon actually laughed. "With what? Your consulting job paid what, $75,000 a year? That doesn't even cover the estate's monthly operating costs. Emma, this isn't your world. Just let Mom and me handle the finances. You focus on being healthy for the baby." The message was brutally clear. You have no value here. Your only job is to produce an heir. Know your place. Emma said nothing more. But that night, she opened her laptop and transferred $10 million from her personal account to a separate hidden trust. Money they would never know about. Money that would be there when she needed it. The following week brought the shopping trip that would crystallize Emma's understanding of her position in the Mitchell family hierarchy. Catherine announced they were going maternity shopping. Said it brightly, like it was a fun girls' day out. They drove to an upscale boutique in Newbury Street, where Catherine was clearly known and valued. "Let me help you," Catherine said, immediately taking control. She pulled dresses from racks with decisive movements. "This would be perfect for you, modest, appropriate for family dinners." The dress was ugly, shapeless and frumpy, the kind of thing designed to hide a body rather than flatter it. "I was thinking something more," Emma started. "These are what Mitchell wives wear," Catherine interrupted firmly. "Trust me, dear, I know what's appropriate." She brought 6 hideous outfits to the register, $1,200 total, then loud enough for everyone in the boutique to hear, "I'll get this. Emma's on a tight budget now." Other customers turned to stare. The saleswoman looked at Emma with pity. "That's very generous of you," the saleswoman said to Catherine. "Family takes care of family," Catherine replied with a smile, and the unspoken threat was crystal clear. "As long as you're a good wife, we'll take care of you. Step out of line, lose everything." In the car afterward, Catherine drove the point home. You should be grateful, Emma. Most women in your position wouldn't have someone looking out for them. My position? Emma kept her voice neutral. Pregnant, unemployed, financially dependent, Catherine said each word deliberately. But don't worry. As long as you're a good wife to Brandon and give us a healthy grandchild, we'll take care of you. The threat wasn't even veiled anymore. That night, Emma recorded an audio note on her phone, the 73rd such recording in her growing collection. Day 73. Catherine spent $1,200 on clothes I hate and will never wear. She announced my tight budget loud enough for 20 people to hear, making sure everyone in that boutique knew I'm financially dependent on the Mitchell family. Brandon said nothing when I told him. Actually, he said, and I quote, "Mom's just trying to help." Emma paused, one hand on her growing belly. I could end this tomorrow. One phone call to David. Reveal who I am. Walk away with everything. But then they'd spin it as the gold digger who ran when her con was exposed. No, I need them to destroy themselves. I need the whole world to see what they really are. I need evidence so overwhelming that no one can defend them. She saved the recording. File name Evidence Day 073. She had 217 similar recordings, and she was just getting started. Emma found the hotel receipt while doing laundry in month 4 of her marriage. Yes, Catherine now made Emma do laundry. Part of earning your keep, Catherine had said with that smile that never reached her cold eyes. Learning what it means to work. Understanding that nothing in this family is free. So Emma sorted Brandon's clothes in the mansion's laundry room, a space the size of her childhood bedroom, and tried not to think about how far she'd fallen from the woman who'd once run a billion-dollar company. The receipt fell from Brandon's pants pocket. Boston Harbor Hotel. Presidential suite. $1,200 per night. Last Thursday. Last Thursday, Brandon had told Emma he had a late business dinner. Had kissed her forehead distractedly and said, "Don't wait up." Had come home at 2 in the morning, smelling like perfume that wasn't Emma's. Emma's hands didn't shake as she photographed the receipt. She'd suspected for weeks. The late nights, the emotional distance, the way Brandon flinched when she touched him, like her hands burned. The way he'd stopped making love to her entirely, citing stress about the business. But confirmation was different. Confirmation meant she couldn't lie to herself anymore. She checked Brandon's location history on their shared family phone plan. She'd installed tracking weeks ago, one of many quiet preparations for a war Brandon didn't know they were fighting. He'd been to an apartment on Beacon Hill 3 to 4 times per week. The address matched property records for Ashley Rothschild. Emma sat on the laundry room floor, one hand on her 4-month pregnant belly, and let herself feel it for exactly 60 seconds. The betrayal, the humiliation, the rage, the grief for a marriage that had been dead almost before it started. Then she stood up, dried her eyes, and got to work. She systematically documented everything. Screenshots of location data showing Brandon at Ashley's apartment, photographs of credit card statements showing repeated charges at intimate restaurants, wine bars, the same luxury hotel. Always on days when Brandon told Emma he was working late. She checked their shared iCloud photo stream. Found dozens of photos Brandon had taken but never posted publicly. Ashley in his Harvard t-shirt, Ashley in what was clearly Brandon's apartment. Ashley in bed, hair messy, clearly post-sex. One photo made Emma's breath catch. Ashley wearing nothing but Brandon's dress shirt, curled up in his bed, looking at the camera with intimate familiarity. The timestamp was 2 weeks before the wedding. The affair didn't start after they married. It had never stopped. Brandon had married Emma while sleeping with Ashley. Catherine knew. She'd probably encouraged it, maybe even orchestrated it. Emma didn't cry. She was too angry to cry, too focused on survival to waste energy on tears. She called Maria. "Leave him," Maria said immediately. "Tonight, right now, I'll come get you." "No," Emma's voice was cold and clear. "Emma, please, you can't stay there." "If I leave now, they win," Emma explained calmly. "Catherine will say I abandoned my marriage. She'll fight for custody. I'll be the unstable woman who ran away when things got hard. The gold digger who couldn't hack it in the big leagues. So what's your plan?" "I'm going to document everything," Emma said. "Every instance of the affair, every financial manipulation, every piece of psychological abuse. And when I have enough evidence that no judge in Massachusetts could possibly side with them, then I'll destroy them. This isn't healthy, Em. Maria's voice was worried. This level of revenge. This isn't revenge, Emma interrupted. This is survival. There's a difference. But she wasn't sure anymore where survival ended and revenge began. Wasn't sure she cared. Over the next weeks, Emma gathered evidence with methodical precision. She installed additional tracking software, monitored Brandon's communications, documented every late night, every lie, every moment he chose Ashley over her. Month 4 brought a moment of hope that turned to ash faster than Emma could have imagined. She broke down crying during breakfast one morning, just completely fell apart over scrambled eggs because she couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't pretend everything was fine. Couldn't keep smiling through the daily humiliation. Brandon finally seemed to see her. Really see her for the first time in months. Hey, hey, he said, pulling her into his arms. What's wrong? The words tumbled out. I feel so alone. Your mother hates me. You're never home. I'm pregnant and scared, and I can't do this anymore. Brandon looked stricken. You're right. I've been a terrible husband. This ends now. He made a decision right there at the breakfast table. Pack a bag, he said. We're going to the Berkshire's house for the weekend. Just us. No mom, no work, no distractions. I promise. The drive to their vacation home felt like going back in time. Brandon was the old Brandon again, the one who charmed her at the charity auction. Funny, attentive, asking about her day, holding her hand. They spent the weekend talking for hours about their future, made love in front of the fireplace, planned the nursery, dreamed about what their daughter might be like. Sunday night, lying in bed with Brandon's hand on her belly, Emma let herself believe it would be okay. When we get back, Brandon said, his voice serious, I'm telling Mom things have to change. She can't run our lives anymore. This is our family now, me, you, and the baby. We set our own rules. You mean it? Emma heard the hope in her own voice, fragile as glass. I do. Brandon kissed her forehead. I love you, Em. I'm sorry I forgot that. I'm sorry I let Mom take over. That changes starting Monday. Emma fell asleep happy for the first time in months, dreamed about a future where Brandon chose her, where they built a real family, where love was enough. Monday morning shattered every bit of that dream. Catherine was waiting when they returned to the estate, standing in the foyer like she'd been there all night. Nice weekend away? Catherine's voice was pleasant, but her eyes were ice. Must have been refreshing to escape reality for a few days. Actually, Mom, Brandon started, I need to talk to you about setting some boundaries. About the Taiwan deal? Catherine interrupted smoothly. Yes, we absolutely need to discuss that. The Harrison Manufacturing Group finally agreed to preliminary negotiations. This is everything, Brandon, everything we've been working toward. The merger that saves us. Brandon's entire demeanor changed in an instant. The soft, loving husband evaporated. Business Brandon appeared, sharp and focused. Harrison Manufacturing agreed? Brandon's eyes lit up. They've been dodging us for months. How did you manage it? I have my ways, Catherine smiled. But we need to move fast. They're considering other partners. They want to meet tomorrow morning. You need to review the proposals tonight. Brandon turned to Emma. I'm sorry, can we talk about boundaries later? This is critical. This deal is always more critical than me, Emma finished. I know. I understand. She walked upstairs alone. That night, Brandon stayed up until 3 in the morning on conference calls about the Harrison Manufacturing merger. The merger with Emma's own company, though he had no idea. The next morning, he was back to ignoring her. Phone in hand, distracted, distant. I thought we were setting boundaries, Emma said at breakfast. Can we not do this right now? Brandon didn't look up from his phone. I have a critical call in 10 minutes with the Harrison Manufacturing Group board. With who specifically? Emma asked, even though she knew. David Monroe would be on that call, playing his role perfectly. The board members, Brandon's voice carried irritation. This is a $10 billion deal, Emma. Do you understand what that means for our family, for our child's future? This is legacy money, generational wealth. Our family, he meant him and Catherine, not him and Emma. Emma recorded a voice memo that night, number 94 in her collection. Day 94. Brandon promised to set boundaries. It lasted exactly 18 hours. Catherine mentioned the merger with my own company, and he forgot I existed. The man I married is gone. Or maybe he was never real. Maybe I married a fantasy. Maybe I fell in love with who I wanted him to be instead of who he actually was. She paused, hand on her belly. Fine. If he wants to focus on the Harrison Manufacturing merger, let's see how that works out for him when he discovers who actually owns Harrison Manufacturing. Let's see how it feels to have everything you think you've won ripped away at the last second. Let's see how betrayal tastes. Emma saved the recording. She was done trying to fix this marriage, done hoping Brandon would change, done believing in fairy tales. Now she was playing for keeps. Month 5 brought the escalation Emma had been dreading. She'd started pushing back against Catherine's more outrageous demands. Small things, setting boundaries, refusing to jump when Catherine snapped her fingers. It was a test. How much could Emma assert herself before they escalated from psychological abuse to something more dangerous? The answer came at dinner on a Tuesday evening. Emma, are you sure you should have seconds? Catherine's voice dripped false concern across the dining table. Pregnancy weight is notoriously hard to lose, and you were already carrying a few extra pounds when you married Brandon. For the first time in 5 months, Emma snapped back. Catherine, are you sure you should comment on my body? Emma kept her voice level but firm. That's inappropriate regardless of our relationship. My doctor says I'm perfectly healthy and gaining exactly the right amount of weight. Catherine's voice went ice cold. Your wife just spoke to me with incredible disrespect. Emma, apologize to my mother, Brandon said automatically, not even looking up from his phone. For setting a healthy boundary? Emma's voice was steady. No, I won't apologize for asking someone not to comment on my body. It was the first time Emma had directly refused a command. The first time she'd stood her ground. Brandon and Catherine exchanged a look Emma couldn't quite read, but that made her stomach drop. 3 days later, Catherine hosted a girls' luncheon at the estate, 30 society wives. Emma was invited, which should have been a warning because Catherine never included Emma in anything without reason. I want to make amends, Catherine said that morning, her smile warm. Yesterday was my fault. I was overly critical about your appearance and I apologize. Let's start fresh. Let's have a nice afternoon together. Emma was cautious but accepted. The lunch seemed normal. Chicken salad, finger sandwiches, champagne. Catherine made a toast. To new beginnings and fresh starts. Emma took a glass from a passing tray, drank. It was fruity, refreshing. She had 2 glasses over 2 hours of conversation. What Emma didn't know, what she wouldn't realize until too late, was that everyone else had been served alcohol-free champagne. Catherine had personally given Emma a glass of real champagne, on purpose, with malice aforethought. After lunch, Emma felt tipsy, lightheaded. That's when the horrible realization hit. Oh my God, Emma said, panic rising. Was that real champagne? Catherine's concern looked genuine. What? No, dear. Everything was non-alcoholic. I specifically ordered it that way because I knew you were pregnant. I feel like it was real, Emma said, her voice shaking. That's impossible, Catherine said firmly. Maybe you're just tired. Pregnancy exhaustion can feel similar to intoxication. But Judge Morrison's wife had been sitting nearby. Mrs. Morrison had seen Catherine personally hand Emma a different glass than everyone else. She would remember. Emma would have a witness if she needed one. Later that afternoon, Catherine called Brandon. Your wife was drinking at lunch, Catherine said, her voice grave. Real alcohol, while pregnant, in front of 30 witnesses. Brandon came home from work early, his face thunderous. What the hell is wrong with you? He grabbed Emma's arm hard enough to leave marks. Drinking while carrying my child? She set me up, Emma said, trying to pull free. She gave me regular champagne while everyone else got non-alcoholic. Judge Morrison's wife saw it. So now it's Mom's fault you drank? Brandon's voice rose. You're blaming her for your choices? She switched the glasses, Emma insisted. Do you hear yourself? Brandon looked at her like she was crazy. You sound paranoid, delusional. First you accused me of spending too much time with Mom. Now you're claiming she's sabotaging you with alcohol? What's next, Emma? What's the next crazy accusation? Catherine appeared in the doorway like she'd been waiting for her cue. Brandon, I'm deeply worried about Emma, Catherine said, her voice trembling with false emotion. Her behavior has been increasingly erratic. lashing out, making wild accusations, now drinking while pregnant and blaming others. I think she needs professional help. I don't need a therapist, Emma said. For the baby's safety, Catherine continued, as if Emma hadn't spoken, I think we should consult with our family lawyer about custody options. If Emma can't take care of herself, how can she possibly take care of an infant? Emma's blood went cold. You're threatening to take my baby. I'm protecting my grandchild from an unstable mother, Catherine said. And Emma saw it clearly now. This was always the plan: isolate her, control her financially, build a case of instability, then take her child and discard her completely. Brandon looked between them. Maybe Mom's right, Emma. Maybe you should talk to someone. A therapist who specializes in prenatal mental health. He was siding with Catherine. Again. Always. That night, Emma had a full panic attack in her room. Couldn't breathe. The baby kicked frantically. She felt like she was drowning in air. She called Maria with shaking hands. They're going to take my baby, Emma said, hyperventilating. They're building a case. The allowance makes me look financially incompetent. The isolation makes me look friendless and unstable. Now the drinking incident makes me look dangerous. They're going to say I'm unfit, Maria. They're going to take her. Come stay with me, Maria begged. Tonight, right now, leave. If I leave, that's abandonment, Emma said, forcing herself to breathe slowly. Catherine's lawyer will use it. Pregnant woman abandons marriage equals unstable. No judge will give me custody if I run. If you stay, they'll destroy you completely. Then I'll have to destroy them first, Emma said. And something shifted in her voice. Got cold, got hard, got dangerous. Maria, I need you to do something. Document today's lunch. Talk to Judge Morrison's wife privately. Get her statement about Catherine switching the glasses. Get it in writing if possible. Can you do that? Yes, Maria said. But Emma, what are you planning? War, Emma said simply. I'm done playing victim. I'm done hoping they'll change. I'm done trying to make this work. They declared war when they threatened my child. Now I'm going to finish it. She hung up, opened her laptop, sent David Monroe an encrypted message. Accelerate timeline. I need the merger proposal finalized within 2 weeks. Make them believe Harrison Manufacturing is desperate to partner with Mitchell Properties. Make them think salvation is imminent. Then I'm going to rip it away and watch them burn. David's response came within minutes. Your mother would be so proud. I'll have everything ready. Just give me the signal. Emma closed her laptop, put both hands on her belly, whispered to her daughter, I promise you'll never know people like this. I promise you'll grow up knowing your worth. I promise I'll fight like hell to protect you, whatever it takes, even if it means destroying your father's family, even if it means scorched earth. You're worth it, the baby kicked in response. Emma smiled grimly. 1 week later brought Catherine's final trap, the one that would seal all their fates. Emma, beaten down by weeks of abuse, played defeated, went to Catherine privately with submissive body language and eyes downcast. You're right, Emma said, the words tasting like poison. I've been difficult. I'm just so scared about becoming a mother. I've been taking my fear out on you. I'm sorry. Catherine smelled victory like sharks smell blood. Oh, Emma. Catherine actually hugged her, the first physical affection in 5 months. I'm so glad you finally see reason. I've only ever wanted what's best for you and the baby. Everything I do comes from love. Can we start over? Emma asked. Fresh slate? Of course, Catherine said warmly. Fresh slate. Over the next 2 weeks, Catherine was almost nice. She included Emma in family planning. Mentioned Emma's mother positively for the first time ever. Victoria Harrison, your mother, Catherine said one afternoon over tea. She built something quite impressive. I can see her strength in you. Perhaps I underestimated you. Emma's guard dropped. Just a little, just enough to be dangerous. They went on a girls' day, spa treatments, lunch at an expensive restaurant, shopping. Catherine was charming, almost motherly. Emma started to hope. Maybe Catherine really could change. Maybe the threat to her grandchild had made her realize how badly she'd been behaving. Maybe this could actually work. That night, Emma came home early from a doctor's appointment. The baby's heartbeat was strong. Everything was progressing perfectly. Emma was 6 months pregnant now, and for the first time in forever, she felt happy. She heard voices coming from Brandon's study. The door was cracked open. Emma approached quietly, not deliberately eavesdropping, just walking past. But the voices stopped her cold. Inside the study were Catherine, Brandon, Ashley, and a lawyer Emma didn't recognize. If Emma signs the divorce papers tonight, the lawyer was saying, his voice clinical, we can file tomorrow on grounds of abandonment. Given the documented drinking incident and erratic behavior, we have strong grounds for full custody. She gets nothing. You get everything, including the child. Emma's heart stopped, literally stopped for several seconds. But she's been better lately, Brandon said, his voice uncertain. Maybe we should reconsider. She's acting better because I told her to. Catherine's voice was cold. Do you really think she's forgiven you for Ashley? Do you really think she doesn't know about the affair? She's biding her time, gathering evidence. We strike first or we lose control of the narrative. When do we tell her? Ashley asked. And Emma realized with sick clarity that Ashley was part of this, that Catherine had orchestrated everything from the beginning. At dinner tonight, Catherine said, I've already arranged for the documents to be served. She has no family to protect her, no money of her own. She's completely isolated. She'll sign because she has no other choice. And if she refuses, the lawyer asked. Then we proceed with the competency hearing, Catherine said calmly. The drinking incident, the financial dependence, the isolation, the paranoid accusations about me sabotaging her. We have more than enough evidence to have her declared temporarily unfit. Either way, that baby stays in this family. Emma does not. Emma backed away from the door silently. Her whole body was shaking, but her mind was crystal clear. They'd played her perfectly. The 2 weeks of kindness were a setup. They wanted Emma relaxed, unsuspecting, vulnerable. She went to her room, locked the door, called David Monroe with trembling hands. It's time, Emma said, her voice cold and clear, despite the shaking. I need everything ready. The gala is in 2 weeks. Can you have the merger documents prepared by then? Merger documents? David sounded confused. Make it look like Harrison Manufacturing is agreeing to merge with Mitchell Properties, Emma explained. $10 billion deal. Make them think they've won everything. The contract signing will be at the gala. 500 guests, press coverage. The works. And then? David asked, though Emma suspected he already knew. And then I walk into that gala and show them who really owns Harrison Manufacturing. Emma said, I want 500 witnesses. I want reporters. I want photographers. I want everyone they've ever tried to impress watching when their world collapses. Emma, David's voice was careful. Are you sure about this? This is nuclear. There's no going back. They were going to take my baby. David, Emma's voice broke for the first time. They had lawyers ready. They had papers drawn up. They were going to declare me unfit and take my daughter. Yes, I'm fucking sure. She hung up, sat on her bed, put both hands on her belly. Catherine wanted me to feel safe so she could strike, Emma whispered to her unborn daughter. Well, congratulations, Catherine. I feel very safe now. Safe enough to end you. Safe enough to destroy everything you've built. Safe enough to show the world exactly who you are. Tomorrow she'd go down to dinner. She'd smile. She'd play the broken, grateful daughter-in-law. She'd sign whatever papers they put in front of her. And then, in 2 weeks, she'd burn their world to the ground. The war was no longer coming. The war had already begun. 2 weeks before the gala, Emma met David Monroe in an empty parking garage in South Boston. It was dramatic meeting like this, like something from a spy thriller. But Catherine had eyes everywhere in Boston social circles, and David couldn't risk being seen with Emma publicly until the perfect moment. David handed Emma a thick folder as she sat in his car. Harrison Manufacturing Group official merger proposal with Mitchell Properties, David said. $10 billion. Contract signing scheduled for the gala. Catherine thinks this is completely real. She's already planning how to spend the money. And the board? Emma asked, leafing through documents that looked impressively official. Playing their roles perfectly, David smiled. We've had months of meetings with Catherine and Brandon. Every conversation recorded with their knowledge, of course, since we told them we record for legal documentation. They have no idea those recordings will be used against them. What exactly have they promised? Oh, it's beautiful. David's smile turned sharp. Catherine promised board members kickbacks, positions, bonuses, all funded by money she doesn't have. She's committed fraud in at least 8 different instances. Multiple federal crimes. Emma felt grim satisfaction. Good. What else? I've contacted Judge Morrison privately, David continued. Showed him the evidence of Catherine's champagne setup. His wife gave a detailed sworn statement. The judge is deeply disturbed by what he saw, and he's agreed to be at the gala as a witness to whatever happens. Media coverage? I've quietly tipped off 3 business reporters, David said. They'll be covering what they think is a historic merger. They have no idea they're about to witness the most spectacular public takedown in Boston business history. And my Instagram live stream? Your account is ready. 50,000 followers, all real accounts from your mother's extensive business network. When you go live, Emma, you'll have an audience in 6 figures within minutes. Everyone who mattered to Victoria will be watching you reclaim her legacy. Emma took a breath, felt the weight of what she was about to do. Her mother had spent 30 years building Harrison Manufacturing from a small factory into a manufacturing empire. Catherine had spent 9 months trying to steal it by systematically destroying Victoria's daughter. Time to make sure everyone knew the difference between building and stealing. My mother spent 3 decades building Harrison Manufacturing, Emma said quietly. Catherine spent 9 months trying to take it by destroying me. Let's make sure history records who did what. Victoria would be so proud of you, David said. Would she? Emma's voice was sad. Or would she tell me I should have left months ago? That I shouldn't have stayed just to gather evidence? That protecting myself and my daughter should have come before revenge? She'd say what she always said, David replied. If you're going to fight, fight to win, and you're about to win decisively. That night, Emma sat alone in her guest room at the Mitchell estate, 7 months pregnant now. A small bag packed and hidden in her closet in case things went wrong, in case she needed to run. She looked at her wedding photo on the dresser, the before picture, when she'd still believed Brandon was who he pretended to be, when she'd thought love could overcome family toxicity, when she'd been naive enough to think she could change him. She recorded what she knew would be her final voice memo. This is day 267. Tomorrow night, I walk into that gala. I reveal everything, and I either save myself and my daughter, or I lose everything trying. Emma paused, hand on her belly. If you're listening to this someday, Maggie, yes, I am naming you Margaret Victoria after both your grandmothers. I want you to know I tried. I tried to make this family work. I tried to believe your father could be the man he pretended to be at that charity auction. But some people don't want to change. They want you to shrink until you're nothing, until you believe you deserve the cruelty. Her voice hardened. So tomorrow I teach them that nothing can be the most dangerous thing in the world. Because people who think you're powerless stop watching for the knife. And that's when you strike. Emma closed the laptop, tried to sleep, couldn't. Lay awake until dawn thinking about everything that could go wrong. Brandon might stop her before she could speak. Catherine might call security. The press might not care. The live stream might not work. But also everything that could go right. 500 witnesses, undeniable evidence. The truth finally spoken in a place where it couldn't be buried or gaslit away. The day of the gala arrived with artificial brightness. Perfect weather, as if nature itself was cooperating with Emma's plan. She dressed carefully in the guest room. The navy maternity gown she'd bought in secret, without Catherine's knowledge or $500 allowance, fit perfectly. Elegant but not flashy, making her pregnancy look dignified rather than apologetic. Her mother's jewelry, simple pieces but expensive, old money that carried weight. Emma did her own makeup, natural but polished. The kind of look that said she belonged in rooms with billionaires and power brokers. That she wasn't the poor girl playing dress-up that Catherine had spent 9 months telling her she was. She heard Catherine and Brandon downstairs, getting ready to leave. Heard Catherine's sharp voice giving last-minute instructions to staff. Heard Brandon's deeper tones agreeing with whatever his mother said, like always. At 6 o'clock, their car left. Emma watched from her window as they drove away. Catherine in custom Chanel, every hair in place. Brandon in his perfectly tailored tuxedo, looking handsome and successful and completely unaware that his world was about to end. They looked like victory, like success, like people who'd never lost anything that mattered. In 90 minutes, that illusion would shatter so completely they'd never rebuild it. Emma called for a car. Maria had offered to drive her, but Emma needed to arrive alone. Needed to walk in under her own power, no one helping. No one protecting. Just Emma Harrison, 7 months pregnant and done with being invisible. The drive to the Boston Harbor Grand Hotel took 23 minutes through evening traffic. Emma watched the city slide past her window, thought about her mother, about the empire Victoria had built while being told women couldn't run businesses, about the strength it took to survive in a man's world, about the lessons Victoria had taught Emma about power and patience and knowing when to strike. "I hope I'm making you proud, Mom," Emma whispered to her reflection in the car window. The hotel was magnificent, all glass and modern architecture overlooking the harbor. Luxury cars lined the entrance, doormen in crisp uniforms, women in evening gowns that cost more than cars, men in custom tuxedos. 500 of Boston's wealthiest and most powerful, all gathered to celebrate a merger that would never happen. Emma took a breath, checked her phone. The live stream app was ready. 52,000 followers waiting. 3 reporters inside, positioned perfectly. Judge Morrison's statement secured. David Monroe in place to stand when needed. Everything was ready. Emma stepped out of the car. The ballroom was exactly what Catherine had promised. Crystal chandeliers casting soft light over tables draped in silk. Champagne flowing like water. String quartet playing Vivaldi. 500 guests in evening wear, all of them believing they were witnessing the salvation of the Mitchell family legacy. Catherine stood at the head table like a queen holding court. Brandon beside her, handsome and confident. And Ashley Rothschild sitting beside Brandon like she belonged there, like she was his wife instead of his mistress. Tonight, Catherine was saying to the assembled crowd, her voice carrying beautifully across the ballroom, "We celebrate not just a merger, but the future of Mitchell Properties. A legacy secured for generations." Champagne toast, applause, self-congratulation. Then the ballroom doors opened. Emma Harrison walked in. The room didn't go silent all at once. It was gradual, heads turning, conversations trailing off, the string quartet faltering and stopping, like a wave of silence spreading from Emma's entrance across 500 people. She walked with purpose, one hand protectively on her 7-month pregnant belly. The navy gown flowed around her. She looked powerful in a way Catherine had never seen, had never imagined Emma could look. Judge Morrison saw her first. His weathered face lit up with genuine warmth. "Emma," his voice carried across the ballroom. "What a wonderful surprise. You look absolutely radiant." He stood, offering his arm. Emma took it. They walked toward the head table together. Every eye in the room following their progress. Every conversation dying as people registered what was happening. Brandon's face went white as snow. Catherine's face went red with rage, barely controlled. Ashley just looked confused. "Good evening, everyone," Emma said calmly to the room. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." "What are you doing here?" Catherine's voice was a hiss. "I'm Brandon's wife," Emma said clearly, "the mother of his child. Why wouldn't I be at the celebration of my family's business merger?" "Emma," Brandon stood, tried to take her arm. "Maybe we should talk privately about this." Emma stepped back smoothly. "Privately? Like how you privately planned to serve me divorce papers yesterday? Should we discuss that privately? Or should we discuss it here, in front of 500 witnesses?" Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones came out. The 3 reporters in the back leaned forward, suddenly very interested. Catherine forced a smile. "Emma, darling, you're clearly overwrought. Pregnancy emotions can be overwhelming. Why don't we step outside and sign these papers now?" Emma interrupted, pulling divorce papers from her clutch. "Is that what you were going to say, Catherine?" She slammed them on the table in front of Brandon. The sound echoed in the suddenly silent ballroom. This is the moment everything changes, Emma thought. The moment 9 months of suffering transforms into justice. The moment Catherine Mitchell learns what happens when you underestimate quiet strength. She looked at the 500 faces watching, looked at the reporters recording, looked at Judge Morrison standing beside her in support. Emma Harrison was about to burn down an empire, and God help her, she was going to enjoy it. "These are from your lawyer," Emma said to Brandon, her voice carrying clearly across the silent ballroom. "Filed yesterday morning. Grounds, abandonment, claiming I'm an unfit mother due to erratic behavior and substance abuse during pregnancy. Seeking full custody of our unborn child." She turned to address the room. 500 wealthy, powerful people staring at her in shocked silence. "Show of hands," Emma said. "Who here thinks a woman who's been confined to a house for 7 months, who's had her finances controlled, who's been systematically isolated from friends and family, has abandoned her marriage?" Nobody raised their hands. Several women looked distinctly uncomfortable. A few men shifted in their seats. Emma looked at Ashley Rothschild. "How's the Beacon Hill apartment, Ashley?" "Brandon's been spending considerable time there. 3 to 4 nights per week since our wedding." "Does your trust fund cover the rent, or has my husband been helping with expenses?" Ashley went white. Her father stood up abruptly. "Ashley, what is she talking about?" "They've been sleeping together since before Brandon and I got married," Emma said, her voice steady. "I have hotel receipts going back 10 months, location data from our shared family phone plan, text messages, photos Brandon took in Ashley's apartment. Should I project them on the screen behind me? Or should we keep that particular humiliation private?" "Emma, please," Brandon said desperately, reaching for her. "Not here. Let's discuss this privately." "Not here," Emma's voice cut like a blade. "Where should we do this, Brandon? In the mansion where your mother gave me a $500 weekly allowance while you control millions? In the guest room where I sleep alone because Catherine decided married couples need separate quarters? In the maternity boutique where she loudly announced my tight budget to ensure everyone knew I was financially dependent?" Catherine stood, attempting to regain control. "This is absurd. You're clearly having some kind of breakdown. The stress of pregnancy has obviously affected your mental state. Brandon, call security and let's get Emma some help." "Security?" Emma smiled, and it wasn't kind. "You want to call attention to this situation right now, Catherine? You want security cameras and official reports?" She turned to the room again. "For those who don't know me, I'm Emma Harrison. You might recognize the surname Harrison. My mother was Victoria Harrison." A few gasps. Some people clearly recognized the name. Others were confused. "My mother built Harrison Manufacturing Group from absolutely nothing," Emma continued. "Started with a single factory and 30 employees. Spent 30 years building it into one of the largest manufacturing conglomerates on the East Coast. When she died 2 years ago from cancer, she left the entire company to me. Every share, every subsidiary, every contract, every supplier, everything." Catherine's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. The color drained from her face. "The merger you're celebrating tonight?" Emma's voice was clear and strong. "The $10 billion deal that's supposedly going to save Mitchell Properties from bankruptcy? You need my signature, not the board's signature, not David Monroe's signature. Mine. Because I own Harrison Manufacturing Group. I am the sole owner and decision maker." The room erupted in whispers. Heads turned to each other. Phones came out everywhere. The 3 reporters were typing frantically. "That's impossible," Catherine whispered. "The board told us. We've had months of meetings." David Monroe stood from his seat in the audience. "The board works for Emma," David said clearly. "I'm David Monroe, Chief Operating Officer of Harrison Manufacturing. Emma's mother left very explicit instructions in her will. The company goes entirely to Emma. We've been operating under her direction since Victoria's death 2 years ago." He looked at Catherine with something approaching contempt. "Every meeting you had with us?" Emma was listening to recordings. "Every promise you made? She has documentation. Every fraudulent claim you made about Mitchell Properties' financial stability? We have evidence. Every kickback you promised board members from merger funds? Recorded and reported to federal authorities." Catherine sat down hard, like her legs couldn't hold her anymore. Emma pulled out her phone, held it up so everyone could see the screen. "Oh, and Catherine, this entire conversation has been live streaming on my Instagram account since the moment you told me to sign divorce papers. 52,000 people are watching right now, including reporters from the Boston Globe, Wall Street Journal, and Forbes. She showed the phone to the room. The comment section was exploding with messages of support, shares climbing into the thousands. By tomorrow morning, the story of how Catherine Mitchell systematically abused her pregnant daughter-in-law will be trending nationwide. But let me give you all the complete picture of what the Mitchell family has done. The screen behind Emma lit up. David had prepared a presentation, evidence laid out with devastating precision. Slide 1, audio recording. Catherine's voice filled the ballroom. Emma's from a different background, more spontaneous, but we're adjusting. This is Catherine implying I trapped Brandon by getting pregnant, Emma explained. Said at a charity luncheon to 30 society wives. Making sure everyone in her social circle judged me. Building a narrative that I was a gold digger who used pregnancy to trap a wealthy man. Slide 2, bank statements. Here's proof that Catherine gave me a $500 weekly allowance, Emma said, while Brandon and I had a joint account with $2 million. She deliberately made me financially dependent while telling everyone I was on a tight budget. Economic abuse with the goal of making me look incompetent and dependent. Slide 3, text messages between Brandon and Ashley. Brandon, miss you, tonight? Ashley, your place or mine? Brandon, yours. Emma thinks I'm working late. Timestamp, 2 weeks before our wedding. The affair started before we married, Emma said. It never stopped. Catherine knew about it. She encouraged it. She's been planning to replace me with Ashley since before Brandon and I exchanged vows. Ashley's father grabbed his daughter's arm and dragged her toward the exit. Her humiliation was complete. Emma watched them go and felt nothing. Ashley had been a pawn too, manipulated by Catherine's plans. Slide 4, video footage. This is security camera footage from the luncheon where Catherine served me alcohol while 6 months pregnant, Emma said. Watch carefully. The video played. Crystal clear footage showing Catherine personally handing Emma a different champagne glass than the one she gave everyone else. Then Catherine watching Emma drink it with barely concealed satisfaction. Judge Morrison stood. I witnessed this event, the judge said, his voice carrying authority. My wife gave a sworn statement to Emma's attorneys. This was deliberate sabotage with the specific intent to make Emma appear unfit during pregnancy. Catherine Mitchell knowingly served alcohol to her pregnant daughter-in-law, then used that incident to threaten custody. Emma continued, Catherine used this drinking incident to threaten taking my child, told Brandon I needed psychiatric help, built a legal case claiming I was unstable, financially incompetent, and dangerous to my unborn child. She looked at Catherine. Gaslighting, isolation, financial abuse, emotional manipulation, reproductive coercion, conspiracy to commit custodial interference, 9 months of systematic abuse, all documented, all recorded, all absolutely undeniable. Catherine stood, desperate now. You don't understand. Mitchell Properties has been in my family for 90 years, 3 generations. I cannot be the one who loses it. I won't be remembered as the failure who destroyed everything. Then you shouldn't have tried to build your salvation on my destruction, Emma said. She pulled out another document. Mitchell Properties financial records. Emma held up the papers. $340 million in debt. Facing bankruptcy in 60 days, every asset leveraged to the breaking point. You didn't want a merger with Harrison Manufacturing. You needed a bailout. You needed my company to save you from your own catastrophic mismanagement. Brandon looked shocked. Mom, you said the company was fine. You said we had healthy cash flow. You said the Taiwan expansion would generate hundreds of millions. I was protecting you, Catherine's voice broke. If the company failed, everything your father built would be gone. Your husband didn't build anything, Emma interrupted. He inherited a successful business from his father. You destroyed it through 25 years of bad investments, fraud, and embezzlement. Slide 5 appeared. More financial records. Catherine Mitchell has been stealing from Mitchell Properties for 15 years, Emma said. $47 million in personal expenses charged to company accounts. Luxury vacations billed as business trips. Designer clothes claimed as uniforms. Purse, jewelry, even her plastic surgery, all paid for with company funds. She's been committing fraud while the company she was supposed to be managing collapsed around her. Catherine collapsed into her chair. The fight went out of her all at once. So here's what happens now, Emma said. The merger is canceled. Harrison Manufacturing will never do business with Mitchell Properties. Your company will file for bankruptcy within 60 days. Your assets will be liquidated to pay creditors. Brandon, please. Brandon's voice broke. We can negotiate. We can find another way. I'm filing for divorce tonight, Emma continued. Full custody of our daughter. You'll get supervised visitation, Brandon, if and only if you complete 1 year of intensive therapy addressing your inability to stand up to your mother and your pattern of betraying people who trust you. Catherine gets no access to my child. Ever. She's my grandchild, Catherine whispered. She's my daughter, Emma said, and I will protect her from learning that cruelty is love, that manipulation is care, that financial control is family. Everything you've done to me stops with my generation. My daughter will never experience what I experienced. Emma addressed the room one final time. The prenup Catherine made me sign stated I brought 0 assets to this marriage. But my lawyers found 18 separate ways it's invalid. Fraud in the inducement, coercion, material misrepresentation, false statements knowingly made by the Mitchell family attorneys. She smiled, cold and sharp. But I don't need to fight over Mitchell money anyway. I have $8.7 billion. She looked at Catherine one last time. Oh, and Catherine? The Mitchell estate? The mansion your family's owned it for 3 generations? No, Catherine whispered, understanding dawning. My mother bought the mortgage debt 2 years ago when you fell behind on payments, Emma said. You're currently 4 months delinquent. As of 8 p.m. tonight, I am the legal owner of that property. I'm foreclosing immediately. She handed Catherine an eviction notice. You have 30 days to vacate. I'm selling the property and using the proceeds to create a foundation that helps women escape abusive family situations. Women like me. Women you've spent 9 months trying to break. Catherine fainted, actually collapsed from her chair onto the floor. Staff rushed to help her. Paramedics who'd been standing by, anticipating drama at this high-profile event, moved in quickly. Emma turned and walked away. Judge Morrison offered his arm again. They walked toward the exit together. Behind her was chaos. Reporters swarming Brandon. Guests shocked and talking over each other. Phones everywhere capturing the moment. The carefully constructed world of the Mitchell family crumbling in real time. Emma exited through the grand doors, into the night air. Free. For the first time in 9 months, Emma Harrison could breathe. 3 months after the gala, Emma stood in her new apartment in Cambridge. Small, modest, hers. Every piece of furniture chosen by her. Every picture on the walls placed by her hands. No Catherine dictating decor. No Brandon ignoring her preferences. Just Emma building a space that felt like home. She was 9 months pregnant now. Huge. Ready. Waiting for her daughter to decide it was time. Maria helped pack a hospital bag on a Sunday afternoon in early spring. How are you feeling? Maria asked, folding tiny baby clothes with practiced efficiency. Physically? Emma sat carefully on the couch, one hand on her enormous belly, ready for this baby to come out. My back hurts constantly. I cannot see my feet. I waddle like a penguin. The usual 9-month complaints. And emotionally, Maria's voice was gentle. Emma was quiet for a long moment. I wake up at 2 in the morning with panic attacks. I hear Catherine's voice in my head telling me I am worthless. I flinch when someone raises their voice near me. I am in therapy 3 times a week trying to unpack 9 months of systematic abuse. But you won, Maria said. You destroyed them completely. Did I? Emma's voice was soft. I mean, yes. They are ruined. Catherine faces federal charges. Brandon lost everything. Mitchell Properties is bankrupt. But I am also damaged, Maria. Victory does not erase what they did to me. Does not erase the fear I still feel. Does not make me magically whole again. You are healing, Maria said fiercely. That is different from healed. Healing is a process. You are allowed to take time. I just want to be okay for my daughter. Emma felt tears threaten. I do not want her to have a mother who is broken, who startles at loud noises, who has nightmares about being trapped. You are not broken, Maria grabbed Emma's hands. You are a survivor. There is a massive difference. You survived something horrible and you are doing the work to heal. That is strength, Emma. That is what you will teach your daughter. That night, Emma's water broke at 11:30 p.m. Maria drove her to Massachusetts General Hospital. Emma labored for 13 hours, long, exhausting hours of pain and breathing, and wondering if she had the strength to do this. At 12:43 p.m. on April 7th, Margaret Victoria Harrison was born. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Perfect. The nurse placed her on Emma's chest. Emma looked down at her daughter's tiny face and cried. "Hi, baby girl," Emma whispered. "I am your mom. And I promise you, you will never question if you are enough. You will never shrink yourself to make others comfortable. You will know your worth from day one because I am going to spend every single day showing you." Maggie yawned, completely unimpressed with her mother's dramatic speech. Emma laughed through tears. "Yeah, you are definitely Victoria Harrison's granddaughter." Already unimpressed with emotional declarations. The aftermath of the gala had been swift and brutal. Mitchell Properties filed for bankruptcy within 30 days. Catherine was charged with 15 counts of fraud and embezzlement. Federal prosecutors had the recordings David provided, had bank statements, had testimony from board members Catherine tried to bribe. She faced 5 to 10 years in federal prison. Every social connection cut her off completely. The same society wives who had fawned over her at luncheons now pretended they had never known her. Catherine Mitchell went from Boston society queen to pariah overnight. She moved to Connecticut to live with her sister, a small house in a small town where nobody knew the Mitchell name, where she could hide from the shame. Brandon lost his job, obviously, lost his social standing, lost his reputation. He moved to a modest apartment in Somerville, got a job at a small consulting firm, making a fraction of his previous salary, started intensive therapy 3 times per week. Ashley Rothschild was sent to volunteer in Africa for a year. Her family's way of dealing with scandal. Remove the embarrassment from sight until people forgot. She became a minor tabloid story for a few weeks. The other woman in the $10 billion scandal. Then the news cycle moved on and she was forgotten. Emma rebuilt her life piece by piece with Maggie as her center. She took over Harrison Manufacturing officially. The company thrived under her direct leadership. Revenue up 34% in the first quarter. The sustainability initiatives Emma launched generated unprecedented interest from environmentally conscious companies. She started the Margaret Victoria Harrison Foundation with $50 million of seed money. The foundation helped women leave abusive situations, provided housing, legal aid, job training, everything Emma wished she had known about during those 9 months of hell. In the first year, the foundation helped 1,200 women escape domestic violence. By year 3, that number quadrupled. Emma spoke at conferences, wrote articles about recognizing financial abuse and emotional manipulation, became a voice for survivors who were still finding their own voices. 6 months after Maggie was born, the doorbell rang on a Saturday morning. Emma checked the security camera. Brandon stood outside, looking nervous. She almost did not answer. But curiosity and perhaps residual feelings made her open the door. She did not invite him in. Brandon looked different, thinner, humble. No expensive clothes, just jeans and a plain sweater. His hair was longer, less perfectly styled. He looked like a real person instead of a Ken doll. "Hi," Brandon said. "I know I am not supposed to be here, but I brought something." He handed Emma a folder. Inside was a certificate showing 6 months of intensive therapy completed, a handwritten timeline of every single instance he had failed to protect her, every moment he chose his mother over his wife, every betrayal, every dismissal, all documented in his own handwriting, and a check for $50,000. "For Maggie's college fund," Brandon said. "It is all I have left after paying my legal fees and settling debts. But she deserves it." Emma looked at him carefully. "Why now?" "Why this?" "Because my therapist asked me to write a list of every time I betrayed you," Brandon's voice broke. "I got to 200 entries and stopped because I could not keep reading my own handwriting, could not keep facing what I did to you." He met Emma's eyes. "I do not expect forgiveness. I do not deserve it. But I want Maggie to someday know that her father tried to become someone worthy of knowing her, that I did not just give up and blame everyone else, that I am doing the actual work." Emma was silent for a long moment, studying his face, looking for manipulation, looking for the signs she had learned to recognize. She saw only genuine remorse and exhaustion. "You can meet Maggie," Emma finally said. "Once a month, supervised visits only. If you stay in therapy, not for me, not for custody, but for yourself, we can revisit the arrangement in 1 year. Brandon's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Thank you, Emma. I am not doing this for you, Emma said firmly. I am doing it for her. Every child deserves a father who tries. But Brandon, if you hurt her the way you hurt me, if you let your mother anywhere near her, if you prioritize anything over her well-being, I will end all contact permanently. Do you understand? I understand, Brandon said. I will not let you down. I will not let her down. We will see, Emma said and closed the door. Inside, she picked up Maggie from her playmat. The baby grabbed Emma's hair and yanked enthusiastically. That was your dad, Emma said to her daughter. He is trying to change. We will give him a chance. But we will also protect ourselves because you, my darling girl, are the most important thing in my world. Maggie gurgled happily, completely unaware of the complicated adult drama swirling around her. Emma held her daughter close and felt, for the first time since before her wedding, something like peace. 1 year after the gala, Emma stood in Harrison Manufacturing headquarters, leading a board meeting with Maggie in a carrier against her chest. The baby slept peacefully through discussions of quarterly earnings, sustainability initiatives, and expansion plans into renewable energy manufacturing. Revenue up 34% year over year, David Monroe reported with barely concealed pride. The sustainability initiative you launched has generated interest from 3 Fortune 500 companies. We are now the preferred partner for companies wanting to reduce their carbon footprint through manufacturing. And the foundation, Emma asked? The Margaret Victoria Harrison Foundation is fully funded for the next decade, David said. We have helped 1,200 women to leave abusive situations this year, provided housing, legal support, job training, therapy. Every woman who comes to us gets comprehensive support. Emma smiled. This was what power looked like when used correctly, not to dominate or control, to elevate and protect. After the meeting, Emma returned to her office where Maria waited with James, Emma's boyfriend. James was a pediatrician, 32 years old, kind and funny and completely normal. He had not known about Emma's wealth for the first 3 months they dated. When she finally told him, he had been more concerned about her emotional recovery than impressed by her money. How did the meeting go? Maria asked. Good. Yeah, Emma said. The board approved on-site childcare so Maggie will not have to come to future board meetings strapped to my chest. Or she could keep coming, James said gently. You are the CEO. You make the rules, Emma. Nobody is going to tell you that you cannot bring your daughter to work. That is going to take some getting used to, Emma admitted. Making my own rules without someone telling me I am doing it wrong. Her assistant knocked on the doorframe. Someone here to see you. She does not have an appointment, but she says it is important. She says it is urgent. Who? Emma asked. Catherine Mitchell. Emma went completely still. 1 year had passed since the gala. 1 year since she had destroyed the Mitchell family. 1 year since she had last seen Catherine. Can you take Maggie? Emma asked Maria and James quietly. They left with the baby. Emma took a deep breath, steadied herself, nodded to her assistant. Catherine entered. She looked destroyed. No makeup, cheap coat from a discount store instead of Chanel, hollow eyes, gray hair grown out, showing dark roots. She was 60 years old but looked 75. Federal prison was apparently not kind. Long silence stretched between them. I came to see my granddaughter, Catherine finally said, her voice small and uncertain. No, Emma said firmly. Please, Catherine's voice broke. I know I do not deserve it, but please let me see her just once. You are right, Emma said. You do not deserve it, and I am not doing this for punishment or revenge. I am doing this to protect her. You spent 9 months teaching me that I was worthless, that I deserved abuse, that my only value was producing an heir. I will not let you teach those lessons to my daughter. I was desperate, Catherine said, tears running down her face. I was losing everything my husband built, everything our family stood for. I was watching 90 years of legacy crumble, and I did terrible things trying to save it. So was I, Emma said quietly. I was losing myself, losing my sanity, losing my sense of worth. The difference is I was pregnant and alone while you had power, money, and resources. You could have asked me for help, Catherine. You could have been honest about the company's problems. Instead, you tried to destroy me. If I had known who you were, Catherine started, then you would have been nice to me, Emma interrupted. That is exactly why you will never meet Maggie. You only respect people you think have value. You only treat people well when they have something you want. I am teaching my daughter that every human being has value regardless of wealth or status. That is something you will never understand. Emma stood, moved toward the door. Do you have children? Catherine asked suddenly. Before Maggie, I mean. Emma turned back, confused. No. Why? Then you do not understand yet what you will do to protect them, Catherine said desperately. The mistakes you will make trying to secure their future. Someday when Maggie is older, you will make a choice you are not proud of. And you will remember this moment and maybe understand. Emma felt something almost like pity. Just for a second, I am not asking for forgiveness, Catherine said. I know I do not deserve that. I am just asking that when Maggie asks about me someday, tell her I was not always this person. Tell her I loved her father so much I broke myself trying to protect him. Tell her I am sorry. I will tell her the truth, Emma said softly, that you loved your son, but you did not know how to love without hurting others. That fear made you cruel. That desperation made you into someone unrecognizable. That is fair, Catherine said quietly. She turned to leave. At the door, she paused one final time. You would have been a better CEO than Brandon ever could be, Catherine said. Victoria knew exactly what she was doing when she left everything to you. I wish I had seen that earlier. I wish I had not been so threatened by your strength that I tried to break it. She walked away. Emma watched her go and felt the chapter finally close. 3 years later, Emma received news that Catherine Mitchell had died of a heart attack, alone in her sister's house in Connecticut. The sister found her the next morning. Emma did not go to the funeral, but she sent white roses, a card that said simply, "May you find peace," because her mother had taught her that you could have power without cruelty, justice without endless revenge, strength without hate. 20 years after the gala, Emma stood at a podium giving a keynote speech to 200 women at a conference for domestic abuse survivors. I spent 9 months being told I was worthless, Emma said. 9 months where every day brought new humiliations, new betrayals, new reasons to believe I deserved the treatment I received. And the worst part was not the abuse itself, it was almost believing them. She paused, making eye contact with women in the audience, who nodded with painful recognition. But here is what I learned. The people who try hardest to convince you that you are powerless are the ones most afraid of what you will do when you remember your strength. My mother-in-law and my husband did not target me because I was weak. They targeted me because they sensed I was strong and that strength threatened their control. Applause erupted. Emma waited for it to die down. Reclaiming your power is not about revenge, though that can feel satisfying. It is about refusing to let someone else's cruelty define your worth. It is about building something so solid, so true, so aligned with your values that no one can ever take it from you again. She pulled out her phone, showed a photo of Maggie, 26 years old now, brilliant, confident, studying law at Yale with plans to work for the foundation. This is my daughter. She grew up knowing her mother did not stay in a situation that hurt her. She learned that love without respect is not love at all. She will never accept less than she deserves because she watched me refuse to accept less first. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. Women approached Emma afterward, sharing their own stories of escape and reclamation. That evening, Emma sat with Maggie in her office at Harrison Manufacturing. The company had just closed a $50 billion deal, expanding into sustainable technology across 3 continents. Mom, Maggie said, do you ever regret it? The public confrontation, the way you destroyed them. Emma thought carefully. I regret that it was necessary. I regret marrying someone who could not stand up to his mother. I regret the 9 months of abuse, but destroying them when they threatened to take you from me? No, I do not regret that, because you are worth more than all the money in the world, even ruining 3 generations of wealth? Especially that, Emma said firmly, because you are my legacy, Maggie, not the company, not the foundation, you. Watching you grow up strong and confident and kind, watching you know your worth, that is what matters. Maggie hugged her mother tightly. I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby girl. Emma looked around her office. Photos of her mother everywhere. Pictures of Maggie through the years. awards for humanitarian work and business leadership. This was her life now, built from ashes of what Catherine tried to force her into, built on truth instead of manipulation, built on strength instead of cruelty. She thought about something her mother used to say. The only person who can define your worth is yourself. Emma had defined hers, not as Brandon Mitchell's discarded wife, not as Catherine Mitchell's victim, but as Emma Harrison, daughter of Victoria, mother of Margaret, CEO of an empire built on integrity, survivor who became a warrior, victim who became a victor. They called me worthless, Emma thought. They called me nothing. They tried to make me disappear. But I learned that when you are underestimated, you are also underestimated. And that is the most dangerous thing you can be, because nothing can become everything when you are not afraid to claim it. Emma Harrison had claimed everything, and she would never let anyone diminish her again. Her name was Emma Harrison, daughter of Victoria, mother of Margaret, and she would never be anyone's victim again. For every woman who has ever been told she is not enough, you are. You always were.